Joshua, the valiant successor of Moses, remains one of the most profound figures in the Bible, yet his story is often overshadowed. When we think of Israel's triumphs and the fulfillment of divine promises, the name Joshua stands out as the courageous leader who ushered the Israelites into the Promised Land. But who was Joshua really? His story is not merely that of a military conqueror, but of a man who stood at the crossroads of history, defying time itself in the heat of battle, and leading a nation through the most delicate transition in its history. This is the untold story of Joshua, the man who dared to believe in the impossible and succeeded in doing what no one thought possible. Joshua's journey did not begin with royalty or privilege, but rather in the grim context of slavery. Born in Egypt, Joshua experienced firsthand the hardships and trials that his people, the Israelites, endured under the oppression of the pharaohs. From an early age, Joshua was molded by these difficult circumstances, developing a resilience that would become a defining trait of his leadership. As the Israelites prepared to leave Egypt under Moses' leadership, Joshua emerged as a trusted and capable warrior. His first major moment of leadership came when Moses selected him to lead the Israelites in battle against the Amalekites. This was a pivotal moment, not just for Joshua, but for the entire nation. On the battlefield, Joshua displayed a strategic mind and unwavering courage, all while Moses stood above the battlefield, holding up his hands in prayer. It was this combination of divine intervention and military leadership that secured Israel's victory. Joshua, although young, had proven himself worthy of leading God's people in their darkest hours. Yet Joshua was not just a warrior. His relationship with Moses went far beyond that of a military commander and his leader. Joshua was Moses' closest aide, privy to the divine encounters that Moses experienced. He stood watch while Moses ascended Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments, symbolizing his role not just as a military leader, but as a spiritual one, prepared for the mantle of leadership that would one day be his. Joshua's early life was a period of preparation, a time when God was molding him for a future far greater than he could have imagined. Nothing in Joshua's life is as amazing as the day the sun stood still, but there have been many breathtaking moments. This took place at the Battle of Gibeon, a pivotal conflict that would decide whether Israel could carry on capturing the Promised Land. With the alliance of Amorite rulers in tow, Joshua's Israelites were facing an impending deadline. Joshua realized that they would not be able to win by a wide margin, as the day was coming to an end. In a moment of unshakable faith, Joshua called upon God to extend the day. He spoke the words that have echoed throughout history: "Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon, in the valley of Aijalon." And miraculously, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and daylight persisted until Joshua's forces had achieved complete victory. This was no ordinary miracle. It was an event that defied the natural order of the cosmos, a direct intervention by God on behalf of his chosen leader. The event of the sun standing still has fascinated scholars, theologians, and scientists alike. Some have sought to explain it through natural phenomena, while others accept it as a miraculous moment where God altered the very fabric of time itself. Regardless of how one interprets this event, it stands as a testament to Joshua's unwavering faith and his unique connection with the divine. Joshua's ability to command the heavens is symbolic of the extraordinary faith that he possessed. In his moment of need, he did not hesitate to ask God for what seemed impossible, and God responded in kind. It is a moment that defines Joshua not just as a military leader, but as a man of unparalleled faith, a leader who understood that his true strength came not from his sword, but from his relationship with God. As Joshua's reputation as a leader grew, so did the weight of responsibility that would one day be placed upon him. With Moses' death on the horizon, the question of succession loomed large. Moses was more than just a leader. He was the man through whom God had spoken, the one who had led Israel out of Egypt and into the wilderness. Who could possibly fill his shoes? The answer came not from human deliberation, but from divine command. God himself chose Joshua to be Moses' successor, recognizing in him the qualities of leadership, faith, and obedience that would be necessary to guide Israel into the promised land. Moses, in an act of profound humility, laid his hands upon Joshua, conferring upon him the spirit of wisdom and authority. This was not just a transfer of leadership, it was the passing of a divine mantle, one of the most potent promises in the Bible. "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you," was given along with Joshua's appointment. "You can always count on me to be there for you. Be brave and resilient." God himself spoke these words, which served as the cornerstone of Joshua's leadership. He was entering a heavenly mission that had started with Abraham and was now being carried out under his direction. He was not only taking on a leadership role. Joshua's succession was not merely about political leadership, it was a spiritual continuation of God's covenant with Israel. He was to lead them not only into battles for land, but into a deeper understanding of their identity as God's chosen people. Joshua's leadership was as much about faith as it was about strategy, as much about obedience to God as it was about guiding a nation through conquest. The conquest of Canaan was the ultimate test of Joshua's leadership. It was the fulfillment of centuries of promise, the realization of the covenant that God had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yet, Canaan was no empty land waiting to be claimed. It was inhabited by powerful city-states, each with its own army and fortified cities. For the Israelites to claim this land, they would need not only military strength, but divine guidance. The most famous of these conquests is the Fall of Jericho. Jericho was a fortress city, its walls considered impenetrable. Yet God gave Joshua a strategy that defied all conventional military wisdom. Rather than laying siege to the city or storming its gates, Joshua was commanded to march around the city once a day for 6 days, with the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant. On the 7th day, the Israelites marched around the city 7 times, and at Joshua's command, the priests blew their trumpets and the people shouted. At that moment, the walls of Jericho collapsed and the city was taken. The Fall of Jericho is more than just a story of military victory. It is a testament to the power of obedience and faith. Joshua did not rely on his own understanding or the strength of his army. He trusted in God's plan, even when it seemed unconventional. And it was this faith that led to victory. Joshua's conquest of Canaan continued in this manner, through a combination of strategic brilliance and divine intervention. City after city fell to the Israelites, not because of their military might, but because of Joshua's unwavering commitment to follow God's commands. His leadership was marked by his ability to balance the practical demands of warfare with the spiritual demands of obedience. Joshua's leadership extended far beyond the battlefield. After the major military campaigns had been completed, his task shifted to the governance of the newly conquered land. Dividing the land among the 12 tribes of Israel was no small task. It required not only wisdom and diplomacy, but a deep understanding of the people's spiritual needs. As his life drew to a close, Joshua called the people together for one final address, a call to remain faithful to the God who had delivered them from Egypt and brought them into the promised land. His words in Joshua chapter 24, verse 15 have echoed throughout history. "Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." This was more than just a farewell speech. It was a challenge to the people of Israel to uphold the covenant they had made with God. Joshua's leadership was defined by his unwavering commitment to this covenant, and he urged the people to remain true to it long after he was gone. Joshua's life is a profound example of what it means to live with unwavering faith. Unlike many of his predecessors and successors, Joshua's story is one of consistency. He did not falter in his trust in God, even in the most difficult of circumstances. Whether facing insurmountable odds on the battlefield or navigating the complexities of leadership, Joshua remained steadfast in his faith. This faith was not just a personal conviction, it was the foundation of his leadership. Joshua understood that his strength came not from his own abilities, but from his relationship with God. This understanding allowed him to lead with confidence, knowing that God's promises were sure and that victory was guaranteed as long as he remained obedient. Joshua's unwavering faith serves as a model for all who seek to lead lives of integrity and purpose. His life teaches us that true leadership is rooted in trust, in trusting God's promises, in trusting His timing, and in trusting His plan. Joshua's name may not always receive the same recognition as Moses, but his impact on biblical history is undeniable. He was the leader who took up the mantle after Moses' death and led the Israelites into the fulfillment of a promise that had been centuries in the making. He was the warrior who commanded the sun to stand still, the leader who brought down the walls of Jericho, and the shepherd who guided Israel through its most formative years. Joshua's story is not just one of military conquest. It is a story of faith, courage, and obedience. It is the story of a man who trusted God in all things and led his people into their destiny. His life serves as a powerful reminder that true leadership is not about personal glory, but about fulfilling a higher purpose.